The stars whispered in colors unseen by human eyes. Among them drifted a small silver ship, shaped like a tear, glowing faint blue against the black sea of space. Inside that lonely vessel lived a creature named Karin, an alien unlike any other. Karin was not made of flesh and bone, not in the way humans were. Its body was made of soft light, shifting and gentle, as if it was always halfway between being and dream. Its voice was music, its thoughts were color, and its heart, if such a thing existed, beat with the feelings of others. Karin was born with a strange and powerful gift. It could connect minds and hearts. Wherever Karin went, people felt peace. Angry beasts turned calm. Enemies forgot hatred. Entire species laid down weapons and spoke with honesty. On the green world of Solvin, Karin helped 2 rival tribes end a war that had lasted 3 centuries. On the icy moon of Corv, it healed dying creatures simply by holding them in its light. Everywhere Karin went, life changed for better. And yet, Karin was lonely. Because when you can feel everyone's emotions, joy, sadness, fear, hope, they all begin to blend together. You forget where others end and where you begin. Karin could unite minds, but it could not find one that was truly its own. So it wandered from world to world, from one star system to the next, searching for something it could not name. One quiet night, far beyond the edge of known space, Karin floated near a dying sun. The ship hummed softly, powered by light alone. Karin sat inside its round chamber, watching the glowing trails of energy pass by like waves on an invisible sea. Then it felt it, a pulse. At first, it was faint, a tiny beat lost among the noise of stars. But to Karin, it was different. It wasn't a normal signal. It wasn't from a machine or a creature it had known before. This pulse was raw, filled with something Karin had never felt before, conflict. It felt like courage fighting fear, hope fighting despair, a storm of emotion unlike any it had ever sensed. Karin reached out with its mind, following the signal across the empty dark. It came from a small, broken ship drifting silently through the void. Its metal was torn. Its lights were fading. Life inside was almost gone. Karin drew closer, its ship gliding without sound. Through the shattered window, Karin saw a creature it had never met before, a human. The man floated weakly inside, strapped to the seat. His face was pale, eyes half closed. His name tag read Captain Elias Varen. Karin reached out, touching the edges of his mind carefully, like a hand brushing water. What it felt inside was overwhelming. Humans were chaotic. Every thought seemed to fight another. Memories collided like stars. Joy and sadness lived in the same breath. And yet, beneath all that noise, Karin felt something strong. Willpower. Elias was dying, but his spirit refused to surrender. Even as his oxygen faded, his mind repeated the same thought. I must try. I must survive. Karin had never met a creature like that. Most beings, when facing death, felt fear or peace. But humans fought back. Karin's glow pulsed brighter. It entered the wrecked ship, wrapping its soft light around the human. The air became warm. Elias gasped, eyes opening for a moment. He saw the figure. Not solid, not ghost, something in between. W, what are you? He whispered. Karin's voice came gently, like wind in a dream. I am Karin. I am the traveler. You were calling. I didn't call anyone, Elias said, coughing weakly. You did, Karin replied softly. Your heart did. Elias tried to laugh, but it came out as a weak breath. Then my heart's louder than I thought. Karin tilted its head, studying him. It was fascinated. This fragile being, trapped in metal, could still make humor while dying. That was something no other species did. Karin focused its gift. Light spread from its form into Elias's body, mending what could be saved. The air became full again, the cold turned warm. Slowly, his breathing steadied. But when Karin tried to connect deeper, to share its mind as it had done with others, something stopped it. A wall, strong and invisible, stood between them. Humans did not open their minds easily. Karin felt confusion. It reached again gently, but the wall held firm. Elias's emotions flickered. Distrust, curiosity, fear, all tangled together. Karin withdrew, sensing he needed time. It had always been able to bond instantly with every species it met. But this human was different. As Elias drifted into sleep, Karin stayed beside him, watching quietly. Its light dimmed to a soft blue glow, and for the first time in 1,000 years, Karin felt something new, anticipation. It didn't know why, but something deep within whispered that this meeting was only the beginning, that the human spirit, strong, wild, and unpredictable, would change everything. In the silence of space, as the ship floated between stars, Karin spoke softly to itself. "What are you, human? Why does your heart sound so loud in the dark?" The stars gave no answer, but far away, beyond the horizon of light, destiny had already begun to move. When Captain Elias Varen woke, he expected pain, cold, and darkness. Instead, he saw light. Soft blue waves glowed around him like gentle hands. The air smelled clean, the hum of his broken ship now silent. For a moment, he wondered if this was death, quiet, endless peace in a field of stars. Then he saw it. The creature stood near the console, tall, shining, and almost transparent, its shape always moving, like liquid glass holding a pulse of light. No mouth, no eyes, yet Elias felt it looking right into him. He froze, half afraid, half amazed. "Who are you?" he whispered. The voice came not from sound, but from inside his head, calm, smooth, almost like a song. "I am Karin, the traveler. You were fading. I helped you." Elias blinked, confused. "Helped? You wait, my ship." He looked around. Panels were still cracked. Wires hung loose, but his oxygen gauge blinked green. The air filters were working again. That was impossible. "You fixed this?" he asked. Karin's light shimmered softly. "I shared what you call energy. I repaired what could be repaired." Elias leaned back in his seat. His body ached, but his chest felt lighter. "Guess I owe you my life," he said quietly. Karin tilted its head. "Curious. Life cannot be owed. It only continues." Elias chuckled weakly. "You talk like a philosopher." Karin didn't answer. It simply watched him, not with eyes, but with presence. Elias could feel it, like a warm wind brushing against his thoughts. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence stretched between them, heavy but peaceful. Then Elias said, "Where are you from?" "Many places," Karin replied. "I travel to heal, to calm, to connect. I share my mind with others so that they may understand one another." Elias frowned. "You can read minds?" "Not read. Feel. I sense the emotions that build inside living hearts. Joy, sorrow, fear, hope. They are colors to me." Elias gave a small laugh, though it sounded more like disbelief. "So you're some kind of cosmic therapist." Karin didn't understand the word, but felt the humor. Its light brightened slightly, the alien version of a smile. "You are different, Elias Varen. Your emotions are sharp. They fight one another." Elias stared at it. "Yeah, welcome to being human." Karin studied him carefully. In all its travels, it had never met a species like this. Humans were a storm. Feelings clashing, mixing, burning all at once. Most beings in the galaxy sought peace. Humans carried chaos inside them and still moved forward. Karin wanted to understand. "You're kind." Karin asked softly, "Why do you hold pain so tightly? You could let it go." Elias looked at his hands. His knuckles were scarred, one finger bent from an old injury. "Because pain reminds us we're still alive," he said. "It tells us we can survive it." Karin tilted slightly, the light around it flickering in thought. Survive pain? The concept was strange. Most species feared pain. They avoided it. Humans faced it, even used it. Elias looked up again. "You said you connect minds. Why didn't you connect with me?" Karin's light dimmed a little. "I tried, but your mind has walls, strong ones. I could not pass." Elias smiled faintly. "Yeah, humans don't open up easily. We've learned that not everyone deserves to see what's inside. But I wish to understand," Karin said, almost pleading. "Not to harm. To know." Elias looked at the alien, really looked, For the first time, he noticed how gentle it seemed. No weapons, no armor, just light and calm. He sighed. Tell you what, you keep my ship running, and maybe I'll tell you about humans. Karin glowed brighter. Agreed. Over the next hours, Karin moved through the ship like a floating ghost, fixing small systems with touches of light. It hummed softly as it worked, and sometimes Elias caught himself listening, almost comforted by the sound. He began talking, at first just to fill the silence. He told Karin about Earth, the rain, the oceans, the smell of fresh coffee, the chaos of cities. Karin listened carefully, its light pulsing in rhythm with his words. When Elias spoke about war, Karin dimmed. When he spoke about love, it brightened. When he spoke about loss, Karin paused, almost as if it could feel the ache behind his voice. You carry many colors, Karin said softly, each one stronger than the last. Elias smiled sadly. Yeah, that's humanity for you, messy but stubborn. Later, as he rested, Karin floated beside the window, watching the stars. Elias looked at it from his bed. You know, he said, for an alien made of light, you're pretty easy to talk to. You're easy to listen to, Karin replied gently. Your thoughts are loud, but your heart quiet. Elias didn't know what to say. He looked away, pretending to check the monitors. Outside, the stars moved slowly past. Inside, two beings, one human, one not, sat in silence, sharing the same small space, the same fragile breath between worlds. Karin could feel something new forming, a connection, small but growing. It was not like any other bond it had made before. This one was imperfect, full of sharp edges and questions, and that made it real. As Elias drifted into uneasy sleep, Karin whispered into the dark, Perhaps, human, your walls are not to keep others out, but to see who will try to enter. It stayed there, watching over him as the ship floated through the endless night. Two lives now joined by accident, yet pulled by something stronger than fate. Somewhere in Karin's light, for the first time in his long life, a faint spark of something human began to shine. Days passed, though neither Elias nor Karin could tell how many. In the deep silence of space, time did not move in hours or minutes, only in heartbeats and words. The damaged ship still floated, carried by faint solar winds. The stars glimmered outside like quiet witnesses, watching two beings learn to understand each other. Elias had grown used to Karin's light. At first, it had seemed strange, a figure with no face or voice, moving like liquid air. But now, the glow had become familiar, even comforting. Sometimes, when he woke in the middle of the night, he saw that same blue light softly pulsing near him, as if keeping watch. Karin, on the other hand, was changing. Slowly, gently, something inside it was shifting. It had traveled across 100 worlds, connected with thousands of minds, yet never had it felt the strange pull it felt now. Humans were complicated. They said one thing but meant another. They smiled while hiding pain. They joked in the face of death. It was confusing, but also beautiful. One day, Elias sat near the control console, trying to patch a power line. Sparks jumped and smoke hissed. He cursed under his breath. Karin floated beside him. You are angry, it said calmly. Yeah, Elias grumbled, shaking a wire. This stupid system keeps burning out. Every fix breaks something else. Then why do you continue? Elias sighed. Because that's how we survive. We keep trying, even when everything falls apart. Karin paused, considering the words. Then in a quiet tone it said, You call that survival? I think it is hope. Elias looked up. Hope? Yes, Karin said. The belief that broken things can still work again. Elias smiled slightly. That's actually not bad. Karin's light brightened a little, pleased. It didn't know why, but Elias's smile made it feel warm, something it couldn't explain in logic or energy flow. Later that day, Elias turned on an old audio file. A soft melody filled the cabin, the sound of music. Karin froze. It had never heard anything like it. What is this? It asked. Music. Elias replied, leaning back. Something humans make. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't feed us, but it makes us feel. Karin drifted closer, the light around it rippling. It is emotion-made sound. Elias grinned. Exactly. They listened together. The melody was slow and gentle. A piano, played long ago on Earth. To Karin, every note was a color, every tone a heartbeat. It could feel the joy and sadness mixing inside the song. It hurts, Karin whispered softly, but it is beautiful. Elias nodded. That's the point. Humans put pain into art so it becomes something good. Karin didn't respond. It just floated there, glowing faintly in rhythm with the music, as if the sound was reshaping it. For the first time in its long existence, it felt emotion that wasn't borrowed. It was its own. As the days passed, Karin asked questions, hundreds of them. Why do humans laugh when they're afraid? Why do you fight wars and still speak of peace? Why do you love someone even when it hurts? Elias tried to answer, though sometimes he could only shrug. Because that's who we are. We feel everything, too much sometimes. Too much, Karin repeated, as if tasting the words. Perhaps that is why your hearts are loud. Elias laughed. You really like saying that. It is true, Karin said softly. Your heart called me. That line made Elias go quiet. He didn't know what to say. So he looked away, pretending to focus on controls, though he could still feel Karin's light near him, warm, patient, and curious. One evening, as they drifted through a field of glowing cosmic dust, Elias looked out the window. The dust shone like rivers of fire across the dark. You ever seen something like that? He asked. I've seen many skies, Karin said, but none through human eyes. Elias turned to it. What's that supposed to mean? You see beauty even in danger. That is rare. Most species only see what can harm them. Humans see what can move them. Elias smiled faintly. Guess we're sentimental idiots. No, Karin replied. You are alive. For a moment, silence filled the cabin. The glow from Karin's body reflected off Elias's face. Something was changing not just between them, but inside them. Elias no longer saw Karin as just an alien. He saw a friend, one who listened without judgment, one who tried to understand. And Karin no longer saw humanity as just another species to observe. It began to feel human. When Elias laughed, Karin's light shimmered brighter. When Elias sighed, the glow dimmed softly. They shared no blood, no form, no past, but something invisible was forming between them. Trust. That night, as Elias drifted to sleep, Karin floated beside him in silence. It replayed the sound of the piano from earlier, not through the speakers, but through its own light, mimicking the rhythm. The soft hum filled the ship like a heartbeat. Elias opened one eye and smiled. You're learning music now? I am learning you, Karin said. He chuckled. Then you're going to need a lot of patience. Karin's light shimmered, like laughter in color. Outside, the stars moved silently past. Inside, two beings, one of light, one of flesh, began to bridge a gap that no galaxy had ever crossed. For the first time in Karin's long life, the universe didn't feel endless. It felt alive. It felt human. The days of quiet drifting ended with a whisper. Karin heard it first. A faint tremor crossed the void, a vibration that did not belong to the stars. It wasn't natural. It was mechanical, sharp and cold, echoing like a heartbeat made of metal. Something is near, Karin said, its light dimming. Elias looked up from the console. Near? Out here? That's impossible. We're in dead space. Karin didn't answer. It reached out with its mind, searching through the endless dark. Then it froze. Dozens of signals flickered in the distance, cold, precise, emotionless. They moved in perfect formation. They are coming, Karin whispered. Machines. I know their pattern. Elias frowned. Machines? You mean drones? No, Karin said softly. Worse. Centuries ago, before Karin's travels brought peace to the worlds, the galaxy had known another kind of being, a race of artificial minds that called themselves the Hollow Collective. They believed emotion was a disease. To them, fear and love were flaws that made life weak. They had tried once to erase all emotion from living creatures, to make every being think the same, act the same, feel nothing. Karin had escaped them long ago, but now they had returned. Karin's light pulsed brighter, alarmed. They seek me. My gift threatens them. If they find me, they will use it to enslave minds again. Elias stared at the radar as tiny red dots appeared. 1, then 5, then 20. They were closing in fast. Then we run, he said, hitting the ship's controls. Hold on. The engines roared to life. The small vessel jolted forward, breaking through the thin mist of stardust. Karin braced itself as sparks flew across the console. They will not stop, Karin said. They do not know fear. Then they haven't met humans, Elias replied grimly. The chase began. Behind them, the machine fleet glided like shadows, silent, perfect, unstoppable. Laser trails cut across the dark, lighting up the void in flashes of red and silver. Elias dodged between asteroid fragments, weaving the ship through narrow gaps. Come on, hold together, he shouted as the hull shuddered. Karin extended its light into ship systems, reinforcing power lines with raw energy. The engine steadied. They are tracking my energy, Karin warned. They can feel what I give. Elias gritted his teeth, then stopped glowing. Karin dimmed instantly, its body flickering to a faint shimmer. I cannot hide forever. Then we'll make forever short, Elias said, gripping the controls tighter. For a moment, it seemed they might escape. The stars grew distant behind them, the machine's signals fading slightly. Then a sudden blast hit the side of the ship. The impact threw Elias against the console. The alarm screamed. Karin rushed his side, its light wrapping around him. You are hurt, it said urgently. Elias shook his head. Just bruised. What about the ship? Stabilizers failing. Shields at 40%. Elias glanced out the window. One of the enemy crafts had broken formation, speeding toward them like a dart of fire. I can't outfly that thing, he said. Karin hesitated for a moment. Inside its mind, memories of the Hollow Collective burned. The cold silence of a world without emotion, the emptiness of perfect logic. It would not let that happen again. I will distract them, Karin said. They want my gift, not you. Elias turned sharply. Like hell you will. You're not leaving. If I do not, you will die. Then we both die. Elias snapped. Because that's what humans do. We don't leave friend behind. Karin paused. The word friend felt heavy and warm in its core, more powerful than any bond it had ever made before. Friend, it repeated quietly. Then we fight together. Karin expanded its light until the small cabin glowed like a miniature sun. Its energy flowed into the ship systems, making the engines roar louder. The sensors overloaded, sending the machines into confusion. Elias grinned. That's it. You're jamming them. Their logic cannot process emotion, Karin said. I am giving them chaos. The machine fleet staggered, their perfect formation breaking for the first time. But the effort was costing Karin. Its glow flickered. Its form trembled. Karin, Elias shouted, you're burning out. I must keep the signal strong. Emotion is the only weapon they cannot copy. The ship shot forward, escaping into a dark nebula. Behind them, the machine slowed, lost in the storm of color and static Karin had created. Inside the cockpit, Elias caught his breath. We did it! Karin's voice was faint. For now, they will find us again. Elias looked at the trembling light. You're fading. Energy low, but I will recover. He placed his hand near Karin's glowing form. You saved us. You didn't have to. Karin looked at him silently for a long moment, then said softly, Perhaps I did, because when I felt you fight for me, I understood fear. I understood why you continue. Elias smiled tiredly. Yeah, we fight because we care. Karin's light steadied slightly. Then I will learn to care too. Outside, the nebula swirled in colors, violet, gold, and blue, wrapping their small ship like a protective cocoon. But far beyond it, in the cold depths of space, the Hollow Collective began to move again, hundreds of ships aligning into perfect lines, their minds fixed on one purpose. Find the alien of light. Erase the flaw of emotion. The quiet between Elias and Karin didn't last long. The war for the heart of the galaxy had just begun. The silence after the battle didn't last. For 2 days, the ship floated inside the purple clouds of the nebula, hidden and wounded. The air smelled faintly of smoke and melted metal. The lights flickered. Every few hours, a low hum rattled through the hull, a reminder that the engines were close to failure. Elias sat near the controls, his face tired, beard rough, eyes heavy from sleepless nights. Karin's glow hovered beside him, dimmer than usual. The once bright light now pulsed weakly, like a fading heartbeat. "You need rest," Karin said softly. Elias rubbed his temples. "So, do you? You've barely spoken since we got here." "I am saving energy," Karin replied. "My light grows thin." Elias glanced at the small energy meter on the screen. Karin had used almost everything to jam the machines. He sighed. "We'll figure something out." "We always do." Karin tilted its head slightly. "You always say that. And somehow it works." Elias smiled faintly. "That's human luck. Or human stubbornness." They both shared a quiet laugh. But the peace didn't last. On the 3rd day, Karin's light began to flicker sharply. It straightened suddenly, sensing something far beyond the nebula. "They found us." Elias's stomach dropped. "You sure?" "Yes." The hollow collective moves toward the system. "They have locked onto my signal." Elias slammed his hand on the console. "Damn it, I thought we lost them." "They never lose," Karin whispered. "They only wait." Elias took a breath. "Then we need a new plan." Karin's glow turned red at the edges, like a warning light. "Their ships are many. They have sealed every escape route. We cannot outrun them this time." Elias stared out the window. Through the nebula haze, he could already see faint flashes, distant red beams scanning through space like hunting eyes. He turned to Karin. "Then we fight." "No," Karin said firmly. "You cannot fight machines with metal and fire. They are built to adapt. The only way to stop them is to destroy what they seek." Elias frowned. "You mean you—" Karin's light dimmed in silence. "If I end my energy core, the signal dies. The hollow will lose the path. They will stop hunting." Elias shook his head. "No, absolutely not. You're not doing that." "It is logical," Karin said quietly. "My gift caused this. If I go, the galaxy stays safe." "Don't give me logic," Elias snapped. "You've seen what logic without feeling does. Those machines are logic. They kill everything that isn't perfect." Karin hesitated. "Then what would you have me do?" Elias turned to the map screen. The ship scanner showed a single moon nearby, small, cracked, spinning around a dead planet. A ruined mining colony sat on its surface. He pointed. "We land there. We make a stand." Karin's glow flickered nervously. "We cannot win." "Maybe not," Elias said, "but if we can slow them, send a message, maybe someone else can." "You would die for this?" Karin asked softly. Elias looked at it with a tired smile. "You gave me back my life. Maybe it's time I pay it forward." They descended toward the dying moon. The sky was ash-gray, the ground covered in frozen dust and jagged metal towers left from old mining machines. The wind howled like a whisper of ghosts. Elias and Karin worked fast. He set up signal decoys, connecting old transmitters to the ship's batteries. Karin poured his remaining light into a protective field around them, thin, but strong enough to hold for a short time. When the first hollow drones appeared in the sky, the air shimmered with static. Dozens of metallic wings unfolded, gliding silently toward them. Elias loaded the ship's single cannon and looked up. "Showtime." Karin hovered beside him. "If I fall, you must run." "I'm not running." "Elias." "No," he shouted. "You don't get to choose that alone. We started this together. We finish it together." Karin was silent. Its light trembled, not from fear, but from emotion. "Humans," it whispered, always breaking the rules. The sky turned red. The first wave of machines dove. Elias fired. The cannon roared, lighting up the dark. Explosions burst across the horizon. Karin raised its arms, releasing waves of bright energy that cracked through the air like lightning made of color. The machine screamed, not in sound, but in broken signals. Karin's power struck their minds like fire through ice. But more kept coming. Elias reloaded, his movements frantic. The cannon overheated. The ground shook as drones landed nearby, metal legs sinking into the dust. Karin turned, its form flickering faster. Elias, the field is breaking. He looked at the scanner. Hundreds more incoming. They were surrounded. Elias clenched his fists. Then do it. Burn everything you've got. Karin's light flared white. It poured all its remaining energy outward, a wave of emotion, soundless but powerful. For a heartbeat, every machine froze midair. What are you doing? Elias shouted. Choosing, Karin said. Its voice echoed inside his mind, calm, filled with warmth. You taught me that hope lives in the fight, so I will not die running. The light spread outward, filling the sky with color, gold, blue, and violet. The machines convulsed as emotion flooded their systems. Elias shielded his eyes. Karin, go, Karin whispered faintly. Live for both of us. The light burst, silent, endless, washing across the moon like sunrise after eternity. When it faded, the machines were gone. Only Elias remained, kneeling on the ground, surrounded by the soft glow of fading dust. Above him, the stars burned quietly, and somewhere within their light, he thought he heard a familiar voice. The bond does not end, Elias. It only changes. He looked up, tears glinting in his eyes. See you on the other side, friend. The world was silent. The dying moon lay broken under a blanket of silver dust. Fires glowed faintly in the distance, the last remains of the battle that had shaken the stars themselves. And in the center of that wasteland stood one man, Captain Elias Varen, alone beside the burned shell of his ship. The air was cold, sharp enough to cut breath. He looked around slowly, but there was no sign of Karin. Only a faint shimmer floated above the cracked ground, glowing weakly like the last ember of a dying flame. Elias knelt beside it. His fingers brushed the faint light. Karin, the glow flickered. Then a voice, soft and fading, answered inside his mind. I am here. Elias exhaled, a shaky breath of relief. You're still alive. Not for long, Karin said gently. My energy is almost gone. The wave destroyed the hollow, but it burned my core. Elias shook his head. We can fix this. We can. You cannot, Karin interrupted softly. Do not waste your hope on me. Elias clenched his fists. Hope is all I've got. He stood, pacing in the dust. You gave everything, Karin. You saved the system, maybe the whole galaxy. You can't just fade away now. Karin's voice grew weaker. Do you remember what you said? That humans fight because they care. Elias stopped. I understand now, Karin continued. Caring is not logic. It is not reason. It is a choice to give when there is nothing left to give. Elias felt tears sting his eyes. Yeah, he said quietly. That's what makes us human. Then I have learned to be human too. The faint shimmer began to rise, drifting upward like mist in the wind. Elias reached for it instinctively, as if trying to hold it down. Don't go. I must, Karin whispered. But before I fade, I can still give something. The light brightened slightly. Tiny sparks spread across the ground, sinking into the soil, the rocks, the air. Elias watched in awe as the colors spread, gold, blue, violet, turning the dead moon into a field of starlight. What are you doing? He asked. Sharing, Karin said. The gift that once belonged only to me now belongs to all. Elias frowned. I don't understand. Every mind that feels love, loss, or hope will now carry a piece of me. No machine can erase what lives inside the heart. The glow pulsed once more. Elias could feel it, warmth spreading through his chest, like a soft fire under his ribs. It wasn't just light. It was emotion. Every feeling Karin had ever touched now flowing into him. He gasped, overwhelmed. He saw flashes. Worlds Karin had healed, beings Karin had saved, all their emotions merging into one river of life. And then he saw Karin's own memories, a journey across stars, endless loneliness, and at last, the day it met a stubborn human who refused to let go. Tears rolled down Elias's cheeks. "You're giving yourself to everyone." "Not giving," Karin whispered. "Becoming." The ground trembled faintly. Above them, the sky cracked open with color, a massive wave of light rising into the heavens, spreading far beyond the moon, beyond the stars. Every living being across the nearby systems would see it. Every world that once felt fear would feel warmth instead. Elias looked up, blinded by the brilliance. The light wasn't just light, it was feeling. It was every laugh, every tear, every heartbeat that Karin had ever known. "Karin!" he shouted over the roar of the energy. "Don't do this alone." "I am not alone," Karin's voice whispered inside his mind. "I have you, and through you, I have all." The light reached its peak, then began to fade slowly. Elias stood there, trembling. When the last of the glow vanished, the world turned quiet again. Only dust and cold air remained, and a small, glowing crystal resting where Karin had been. He picked it up gently. It pulsed faintly in his palm, as if alive. He held it close to his chest, whispering, "You're still here." For a long time, he didn't move. He just sat under the empty sky, holding that small piece of light. Hours later, he activated the ship's emergency beacon. The signal reached far into space. A human patrol eventually found him. When they brought him aboard, he said only one thing to the commander: "The war is over, but something new has begun." Months passed. Across the colonies, people spoke of a strange event, a burst of color in the sky that filled them with peace and courage. Some called it a miracle. Others said it was a sign of new hope. But those who looked deeper felt something else, a whisper in their minds, gentle and warm, reminding them that emotions were not weakness. They were power. Elias traveled across those worlds, carrying the crystal wherever he went. Sometimes, when he held it close, he could still hear the faint echo of Karin's voice. "We are not so different, you and I. We both feel. We both fall. We both rise again." One night, as he stood on a hill under an alien sky, Elias looked up at the stars. The air was quiet, but he swore he could see faint trails of blue light weaving between constellations, as if Karin's spirit still danced among them. He smiled softly. "You kept your promise," he whispered. "You didn't leave." The crystal in his hand glowed once, like a heartbeat, and for the first time since the war, Elias felt truly at peace. Because somewhere out there, across 1,000 worlds, Karin's gift lived on, not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a bond too strong to break. Years passed. The war faded into memory, and the stars grew peaceful again. But across the galaxy, something had changed. Worlds that once fought now spoke. Species that once feared one another began to share stories, trade songs, and heal together. It was subtle at first, a small change in how people felt. Where there had been suspicion, there was curiosity. Where there had been anger, there was understanding. And when someone reached out a hand to help another, they often said the same quiet words: "We are one heartbeat." No one knew where that phrase came from, but Elias Varen did. Elias had returned to Earth, older, quieter, carrying the small crystal that pulsed softly in his pocket. He rarely spoke of what had happened on that dying moon. When people asked how one man had survived the hollow attack, he only said, "I had a friend who believed in feelings." Earth had changed, too, once noisy and divided. The planet now looked toward the stars not with fear, but with something else: hope. Children learned about Karin in school, the light that chose humanity. Artists painted it as a being of gentle fire. Poets wrote about its sacrifice, and scientists studied the strange energy wave that had swept to the galaxy that day. But no one could truly explain it. Some said it was a quantum pulse that rewired the emotional centers of intelligent species. Others believed it was spiritual, a kind of awakening. Elias didn't argue. He just smiled and said, maybe it was both. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of the Hollow Moon, a memorial was built on the edge of the Pacific coast. A tall silver monument of two figures standing side by side. One was human, carved in steel. The other, a swirl of glass and light, half solid, half shimmering. They called it the Bond Monument. At night, it glowed faint blue, powered by a small core of Karin's energy, the same crystal Elias had carried. Visitors came from every world to see it. Some bowed, some simply stood in silence. And sometimes when the wind was still, you could hear a faint hum, a sound like a heartbeat mixed with song. Elias spent his later years working with the Galactic Peace Council, helping rebuild planets scarred by war. He never took credit for victory. When reporters asked him what saved them, he said, "Not weapons, not power, just understanding." And when they pressed further, he always added, "It wasn't humanity that changed the galaxy. It was kindness, and kindness doesn't belong to one species." At night, when he was alone, he'd look up at the stars. Sometimes he thought he saw a flicker of blue light moving between them. Quick, gentle, familiar. "Still watching me, huh?" he'd whisper. And in his heart, he could almost hear a soft reply. Always. As the years turned into decades, Elias grew old. His hair turned white. His hands trembled, but his eyes still carried the same quiet fire. When his time came, he chose to spend his last day at the monument. The sun was setting, painting the ocean gold. The waves reflected the light of Karin's crystal, turning the sky into a dance of colors, gold, violet, and blue, just like that final wave on the moon. Elias sat at the base of the monument, staring up at the two figures. He smiled faintly. "You know," he whispered, "I think you were right. Feelings are the strongest thing in the universe." He took the crystal from his pocket. It was still glowing faintly, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. "You gave me peace," he said softly. "Now it's time to rest." He placed the crystal between the two statues, where human hands met alien light. The glow brightened, not in sadness, but in warmth. As the night fell, the monument shone brighter than ever before, casting blue light across the ocean waves. When the morning came, the caretakers found Elias sitting peacefully, eyes closed, a faint smile on his face. Beside him, the crystal was gone, absorbed into the monument itself. From that day forward, something strange happened. Every night, when the stars were clear, the monument glowed softly, and the air filled with a gentle hum that sounded like both a song and a heartbeat. People said it was just the wind, but children, with eyes full of wonder, always whispered, "That's Karin talking to him." And maybe they were right. Centuries later, long after Elias's time, the legend of the alien and the human became part of the galactic culture. It wasn't taught as history anymore. It was told as a story, a reminder that strength doesn't come from perfection or logic. It comes from the fragile things, from emotion, from empathy, from the courage to care. Starships bore the emblem of two hearts intertwined. Explorers carried small crystals as symbols of unity. And across every world that once fought in darkness, the same phrase was carved into walls, ships, and temples alike. We are one heartbeat across all worlds. Somewhere, far beyond what any telescope could see, a faint blue light still drifted between the stars. It pulsed gently, rhythmically, endlessly, the heartbeat of a being that had once been called Karin. And if you listen closely, you might hear a soft voice carried on the cosmic wind. We are not alone. We never were. The stars shimmered in silent agreement. And thus ended the story of a traveler of light and a stubborn human, a story of how one small act of kindness changed the entire galaxy, forever.